I will say good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are, and good evening if you're somewhere on the East Coast. I am honeymoon happy and peacock proud to have our special guest with us here today. It's none other than my friend, your friend, our friend, Mrs. Jane Powers. Jane, how we doing?
I'm doing all right. I love that I now have a whole bunch of friends. I had one once, but I don't know where they went.
The key is when we have these conversations, by the time we finish, we'll be best friends. We start out as just friends, but then as we go through the nuances of just thought-provoking questions and intellectual conversations and in-depth thought, I think we'll be best friends, Jane.
Oh man, I'm a little concerned. You mentioned intellectual conversations. Nobody told me that part. No one told me that part. So people, I will do my best.
That is awesome. That is awesome. The reason for our conversation today is the upcoming conference in which you will participate. It's the District 3 conference. And the theme this year is Rise Up, or the theme next year, I should say, is Rise Up. Jane, when you think of the term rise up, what comes to mind?
So it goes right to the heart and soul of what I do in my business. And so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jane Powers. Entrepreneurs, speakers, and authors hire me to speak with confidence and sell with authority, because most, and I want you to hear this, are boring, confusing, and inconsistent and cannot articulate their message clearly to get results. So I help you connect, capture, and close your ideal audience. Bottom line, every time you open your mouth, you get results. So that is my infamous, I should say, my famous trademark intromercial. And I came up with that formula because most people are not finding their voice, especially in business. And it doesn't matter if you're in your business by yourself or you're in a corporation. Most people fail to find their authentic voice. So right when I hear Rise Up, I immediately go to my business, which is find your voice. In your voice is your power. In your power, you can do anything. But if we're not truly genuine and authentic and truly aligned with who we are, your voice won't matter. No matter what you say, no matter what you want, no matter what you desire, in order to rise up, you must speak your truth and be able to articulate exactly what you desire.
And that's important. But so many people, Jane, will ask the all-important question, how do I do that? It's easy for some to be authentic. It's easy for some to reach a certain level of genuine conversation or being themselves, but a lot of people don't know themselves. We struggle with really finding out who we are and what our purpose is. And so in learning, that brings me to my next question. I think the most effective means of connecting is asking questions. And for you, Jane, in understanding that some people may struggle in finding the genuine side of themselves or the authentic person, when has Jane attempted to connect with someone where you may have thought you were connecting, but you discovered you really were not?
So I love to give this because it's all about speaking. I've been a professional speaker for over 30 years. I've done anywhere from spiritual centers, churches, nonprofits, and obviously entrepreneurship and corporations. So I've done sales training, leadership training, mindset training, you name it, I have been speaking about it. When I first started my own business back prior to being a real estate broker, I moved into being a spiritual life coach. My mentor, very polished, a former minister, wore suits, said things such as, there's a green growing edge of your becoming seeking to emerge by means of you, through you, with you, by you. Or statements such as, just beyond the green growth, right? All these very formal. I'm not so formal. I'm a little more edgy. And I did not have the confidence to deliver my own true style because I didn't feel that I was worthy of that. I felt like, no, who's going to listen to me? I grew up in a complicated family. My family, one of the most famous things that I grew up realizing or knowing was that I was fat, dumb, and stupid. Was I any of those? No. But I was told that, right? If you're told that enough times, you start to believe it. So when I stepped out to do my business and I was going to deliver material, it was easier to use someone else's material than to extract my own. Because what if I said the way I say it and people are like, well, that's dumb. I would go spiraling back into the belief that I had growing up. So I started out my career and, I've been speaking, like I said, the first audience I spoke to, 200 juvenile delinquents about date rape. Wasn't popular, but that was my first. Then I moved I was doing a sales training. It was an early morning meeting. It was a conference, hundreds of people in the audience, and I was doing my very polished delivery. And I ended up mixing up words. And I said, when you deliver the fart, there is no, and my brain, when you're speaking, right? When you're speaking, you have this voice over here going, did you hear what you just said? And then you have a voice over here going, just stay the course, stay polished, stay professional. And then you have the truth of who you are, because you've got those two voices. And I thought, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity that I think is absolutely hysterical. So I hit dead center stage and I looked around the room and I said, either none of you are listening to a word I have said, or you just don't think farts are funny. The room sighed. They were all like, ha! They all started laughing. And from that day forward, I never copycat. I was not a copycat anymore. I stopped saying what others said and started being myself in that. So part of it is, this is the best tip I can give anyone: tattle on yourself. Don't get on stage and go, oh, I'm so nervous. Oh, I'm so scared. I hate speaking. I hope you like me. Tattle at things like that. I have an orangutan behind me. The orangutan is a story about my lack of spelling ability. When I was at a conference and they said, give us an animal that starts with an A. And I yelled out, orangutan, because it sounds like it starts with an A so much. And the whole room laughed and I was mortified. Oh, I was so embarrassed. And I would never tell that story from stage. I didn't want my audience to think I couldn't spell. Well, maybe I'm not the best speller. And now spell check or autocorrect has made me the worst speller than I ever was. And people would come up to me after I would tell my orangutan story and they'd say, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm not that great of a speller and I'm afraid I can't achieve. So I like to say, tattle on yourself so that people know you're real and you're not hiding anything. I wouldn't tell people about my college degree. I have a college degree. I always tease and go, I'm not sure what it's in, but truth be told, I only went to college to play basketball. Didn't matter what I was studying. I wanted to play basketball. I started out as a physical education major because I wanted to be an attorney. And my dad said, that's for smart kids and you're dumb. So I gave up my dream to be an attorney and started studying PE. Didn't graduate in PE, therapeutic recreation, special populations. It just sounds a little better. But I wouldn't tell that from stage because I thought, what if people realized I'm not that smart? But it was only a belief. See, we start to believe what we were told. And what we were told, unfortunately, was a lie to make others feel better. So for years, I just kept running out, doing what I needed to do, found my voice, and started becoming, I've created a 7-figure coaching business, speaking, doing speaker training and sales training, and make millions. How? I just say what is my truth.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And it's, again, you've given us the how. You've given us the how do I become better. But as you were talking about, your father said some things and you wouldn't say things and maybe you weren't the best speller. And I think so many people try to be perfect. So many people try to be perfect. I often say success impresses people. It's our failures, flops, and fumbles that impacts people. And if you want to make an impact, you have to tattle on yourself. You said it so eloquently, tattle, tattle. I haven't heard the word tattle in a long time. You've taken me back today. You've taken me back. Kids used to say, you're a tattletale, you're a tattletale. So that's awesome. But in giving us the how important is it from Jane's perspective for people to improve themselves? How important is that from Jane's perspective to improve yourself?
I wish I could show you my bookshelf. I have got every book that speaks to me. I have been obsessed. And again, I told you I grew up in a complicated family. I'm a statistic from every way, shape, and form. Any addiction, any abuse that you can imagine, it happened in my family, which we grew up in the country club. So people are like, oh, we didn't grow up poor. We were emotionally broke, but we grew up in the country club, but we were so damaged because of the generational abuses that went on, which, by the way, if you have had trauma or some sort of abuse, sexual abuse, buy the book, Revealing the Missing Piece. And that is a shameless plug for my book that was just released in May. It's really a shortcut to the healing process. If you read that book, you'll see how I've gotten to where I am. Because what I believe, the more awake you are, the more you align with your ideal connection, whether it's a client, whether it's a company, whether it's an organization, the more awake you are, the more you honor others and honor yourself. If you run around, they say fake it till you make it, fake it in the right way, like fake it in a positive, impactful way, rather than, fake it until you fall apart when you get home. It's okay to fall apart when you get home, but there's got to be a process. I study, I've studied anywhere from transcendental, Wallace Wattles to Dr. Joe Dispenza. I am a firm believer that what we think will create and bring about our life results. That's it. Our life results are based on our thinking. We don't have a money problem. We don't have a relationship problem. We don't have children that are a problem. If you have teenagers, yes, you do. I'm kidding. But the truth is, we don't have any of those problems. We have a thinking problem. Our mind is like a magnet. If we think a thing, that thing, and it doesn't matter if you are praying, if you are meditating, I don't care if you worship this desk, something beyond you is responding. Make the best communication, the most powerful results you want.
As you said that, I'm thinking about my 13-year-old. I have a brand new teenager in our home. My wife and I have one child. It's a 13-year-old. She just turned 13 in September. And this is being recorded, Jane, but between her, my wife, and my daughter, between the two of them, it's constant battle in our home. I think it's hilarious. The two of them, they get along well sometimes. She and I get along together great, but you talk about teenagers, you talk about those things that are important, Jane. Think of this. What is the greatest lesson? And I know Toastmasters from around the state of Arizona will be watching this, and they will want to pull from Jane. What is the greatest lesson or one of the greatest lessons in all that you've shared with us? Think about one of the greatest lessons you've ever learned.
There are so many, but I'll give you the overarching theme that time and time again I come back to, and it's called comparanoia. A friend of mine told me that term many years ago, and I'm like, oh, I am plagued with comparanoia. Comparanoia coupled with competition. I grew up playing every sport, ice hockey, you name it, I have played that sport. So I'm naturally competitive. I just got off a call with a client of mine who went to an event and came back feeling like crap. And trust me, that happens. If you may be sitting on here thinking, what do you mean she has a multi-million dollar business? She's created 3 multi-million dollar businesses. She can't spell. How is she doing it? Right? We do this to ourselves all the time. Or we go, gosh, I haven't even come close to that. Now we're finding more reasons to beat ourselves up. So comparing yourself to another can motivate you, but once it starts to hinder your progress, knock it off. Like truly, you've got to get away from that situation. So my greatest lesson comes from, I'll give you a great example. I go to an event. Oh my gosh, this event, I paid to speak. So I'll pay 10, 20,000 to stand on a stage for an hour, sell, and then follow up and, recoup my money, many times it's 10 times over. And that's not bragging. I'm just telling you the power of your message. When you speak effectively, you can convert and move, whether you're in an organization, doesn't matter. You can move mountains with the right messaging. So I'm at an event. They hired what I was told I was the only speaking and sales coach, the only speaking and sales coach. I got there. There were 4 speaking coaches and the host was a speaking coach. Should they all be speaking coaches between us? No, not everybody should be a speaking coach. Trust me. So I get there. I'm 3 days. I'm last day after lunch. You know what that means? They've sold the whole room. I get the leftovers. And I'm a baby. I'm gonna have a little tears going on. I'm a little cranky. I'm a little irritated. And a friend of mine, he said to me, he goes, do you. You do you. And I'm like, I know, but I'm angry. He goes, let go of it. You do you. So I go in, I do my speaking. I closed 100% of the room. And I walked out of there and I wanted to kick myself because I thought I wasted 2.5 days worrying about the outcome. And I have found that I need to let go of the attachment to the outcome. High participation, low attachment to the outcome. But boy, I was so attached to the outcome because I was comparing, look how much they're doing. Look at what they're doing. So comparing yourself, if all you do is say, I am unique because of these 1, 2, or 3 things and stand on that, you're still going to hit those times. That's why being a speaker takes a whole lot of work on yourself. Because right, Travis, when you get 100, there's 101 people in that room, you get 100 great reviews and that 1 negative, you will beat yourself up because there's a part of us that expects more and more and more. So you've got to work on yourself in order to not fall into paranoia. My greatest lesson is don't believe everything you see outside yourself because there's somewhat of a filter that we have when we see things. It wants us to always come from behind.
That's good. That's good. And as many Toastmasters will watch, will listen, will rewatch this, what is Jane thinking about Rise Up? What is Jane learning right now? What are you learning right now that may benefit someone?
It has been a lifelong lesson. Again, I came from an interesting background that caused me to be addicted to security, safety and security, and safety not in a way of, someone's going to get me, but safety in, I won't lose my house, I won't lose my business, I won't lose my, it's a sense of having a foundation, a security of financial foundation. And I was driving for more. I became addicted to more than. Well, I did 1 million last year. I better do 2 million. Excellent. We did 2 million. Now I better do 3 million. And please understand this. This is all through speaking and selling and moving people into our program. So if you're out there and you're like, I want to do that, but first you have to know what kind of speaker you are. This is I love this assessment. Speakerassessment.com. Speakerassessment.com. It's an assessment I put together. You can see what kind of speaker you are, so you can see how to make adjustments to that. But what I began to realize is that all I wanted was more because it was an internal sense of I need more security. So my greatest lesson is not chasing the $7 million star, not chasing that next mountain to say, look at me. And I'm not ego driven, but I'll tell you, there's a big part of me that is, because otherwise I wouldn't be competing to get to the top of a mountain. So my greatest lesson is how to have a yes and life. Yes, I've got a successful business and I have a sense of self, and it's not driving me constantly. And Travis, I think everybody's doing that since COVID hit. I think we're all sitting back and scratching our heads and going, you know what? It's not the life that I dreamt I would be living. So change it. And that's what I'm in the process of doing.
That's good. That's a great response, Jane. And in thinking about, man, you gave the example of so many speakers being almost identical at the same conference when you were told, hey, there's only going to be one. I think that's something that we all face at some point in our careers. It's happened to myself. I'm sure it's happened to many who will watch this. And it's great when we hear so many different variations of, man, there was someone just like me, or coming after a speaker who has just drained the crowd with an emotional story, and you have to come up next and maybe give a sales presentation, or it's something that's lighthearted, but you just come after someone who just drained the crowd with an emotional talk, whether it be a terminal illness or they overcame something and everyone's in tears, and now you have to come behind trying to do humor. Let's find out about what the order is before I go to the next conference.
And here's my recommendation to everyone out there. You must take the stage from whoever was before you. Whomever is speaking before you, you've got to take the stage from. There's the simple things. I'm telling you, the simplest thing that you can do is when they introduce you, say something to the host as if you haven't, you may not even know him. You may just say blah, 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 blah. Doesn't matter what you say, but when the audience sees you interacting, they see this interaction where you know the host, it now hands it over. I'll tell you this is the best example. I had to follow, this was pre-makeover, so many, many years ago. And they said it was business casual. So remember back in the day, women had these business shorts. I had shorts, I had like a top to hide my sweat and my love handles. Was it fashionable? It was probably, but it wasn't the woman who was before me, who was an image consultant. She's draping everyone with scarves and ties and boom, look at this. And the audience is loving her. And I'm thinking, man, that's a hard act to follow. She has them eaten out of the palm of her hands. And I'm like, okay, I got to think fast. I've got to take this stage from her. So I hit center stage. They introduced me. I didn't say a word. I hit center stage. I crossed my arms. I looked a little irritated. I looked around the room and they're all thinking, wow, what's wrong with this one? And I said, I have one question. That question is, who on God's green earth did the speaking agenda and made me follow her? Look at me. The room was roaring. They were laughing. I got the pity vote. They were like, oh, I know how you feel. I know how you feel. And so you've got to be creative in the worst. Here's what's worse. You have a boring person in front of you. Now you got to wake them up. You got to have that wire. You've got to have that opening that people go, whoo, thank you. We've got somebody that's real that's going to help us. So you've got to find a way to transition to you by stealing the show. You got to steal the show.
Steal the show. You talked about moments ago, when we started at the top of the hour, you talked about the bookshelf or the books that we couldn't see on camera. What's one book that we should read as speakers? What's a book that we should read as speakers?
I'll give you two. I'll give you two examples of the way that I do my speaking business. Well, I almost forgot this one. Speak with Confidence, Sell with Authority by Jane M. Powers. That's the first one. It'll give you all the tricks you need to get out there and speak. And I mean, I give everything in that book. So Speak with Confidence, Sell with Authority. The other speaking book is Talk Like TED. I don't care if you do a TED Talk. See, I'm a snob. I don't want to do a TEDx talk. I want to do a TED Talk. So, talk like TED, great information in there. It's great speaking tips in there. The other end of the spectrum that I think everyone needs, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It is a fabulous book where when you read that, you go, oh my goodness. It's a great eye opener to who am I? Who do I want to be?
That's awesome. That's awesome. I often think about it, and we're talking about rise up. And I believe if you are a leader, if you are a speaker, you're leading from the stage, you're leading from the front of the room. I think our goal is to lift up or help people rise up. And you're doing that. And you're doing it well, Jay. It sounds like you're passionate about it, and not everyone is passionate. How does someone determine if they have the passion to pursue speaking? How does someone determine if they have the passion to pursue speaking?
You know what? You got, like, if you ask me, if you like, I know I'm getting on this, I get all jazzed. I'm excited. I get, the armpits start to sweat. Is it nerves? No, I lost that 100 years ago. What it is it's that motivation to be able to say, my responsibility after my experience, my success, my years of doing what I do, it is my responsibility to serve. And I didn't go through what I went through in my lifetime to sit back and go, yeah, I hope you do well. I hope you're okay. I hope you make it through life. My responsibility is, you know what? I have learned, I've created systems around it, and it is my obligation to pay that forward. So if you wake up every morning, you go, I gotta go speak. I'm pretty sure you're in the wrong place. But if you get up and you're excited to give value, and here's what I think a lot of people miss. A lot of people miss either they speak to serve solely, or they speak for the result. I know a lot of people that speak to sell, and all they care about is the sale. They're going to do everything they can. It's one long sales pitch. Now, my presentations, this presentation, it's a demonstration. It's a snapshot. Here's who I am. You dig me? We'll work together. But most people do one or the other. I used to get paid in hugs. My mortgage company did not want my hugs as payment. So I needed to figure out how to combine the two. And the art of combining the two is about aligning with your purpose and your passion. My passion is, you'd think it was speaking in sales. I hate sales. I hate sales. What I love is supporting individuals to move through resistance that they may have in their life. So if I do a sales conversation and people are saying, my God, I would love that, but I don't feel worthy, or I don't feel like I can. My job is to help them see who they are, whether they work with me or not. So much of the dance is about serving, giving value based on your true purpose. There are people, I have a couple of colleagues, two guys, one is the happiness coach and one is the joy something. And you look and you go, that's what they love. They spread happiness and joy all over the planet. Our responsibility is to give value and move people into action. I'll give you a great example. So I worked in the prison drug and alcohol treatment centers. I was a counselor, sexual abuse interventions, counseling, did everything in the front lines, worked with juvenile delinquents, you name it, I have done it. And we would do interventions, and there'd be a guy with a needle in his arm, foaming at the mouth, no life, no family, no money, no nothing, on the brink of death. And you go over and you go, we're going to get you help. And they'd say, today is not good for me. Today is not good for me. And I'm thinking, you won't be here tomorrow. You're not going to be here tomorrow unless you say yes. What if I went up to this dude, right, and said, hey, kitten, it looks like you're a little down on your luck. Would you like us to help you? Would that be good? No? Okay, you're fine. I couldn't live with myself. So part of our job is to support people in their yes to taking action, their yes or their no. And that's a responsibility as a speaker. As a speaker, we have a responsibility to give value, to change people's lives, to move them into action, not just get them feeling crappy or poke the bruise. Now buy from me and I'll help you with relief. You want to give just enough to support them, not enough to be dangerous, but just enough to move people into a new state of being. It doesn't matter if it's sales training, computer training, does not matter. The important piece is, as a speaker, you are responsible for your audience.
Value is key. And I think we oftentimes, and we have to say, because we're a collective group, so many of us, the value that we're trying to add is to ourselves and not to our audience and not to our team and not to our family and not to ... I think of the late, great John Wooden. He talked about how every day he asked himself one question. And that one question was, how can I make my team better? Value. Yeah. If we all woke up as speakers, as you've stated, and the question was, how do we make this audience that I'm speaking to tonight or tomorrow or next week, how do I make them better? I think we would be in a much more productive and successful environment. But so many people, Jane, they get caught up in, am I sounding right? I need to add value to me, and how many people are going to follow me or are going to like me after this? And that's not what it's about. I'm glad you said that. Add value to the team, add value to the group, add value to the conference, add value to the, I'm talking about Rise Up here. Add value to whomever you're going to be speaking with.
And the byproduct is, I feel awesome. A byproduct, I'm telling you, I cannot tell you. The byproduct is you're like, hey, I'm a big deal. And I tell people that all the time. I'm like, I'm a big deal. You don't believe it? Come ask me. I'll tell you why I am. Like, you get to feel that way because you are serving. If you are in alignment and you are giving value, you are serving to the highest level. I was at an event one time, and the guy said, he goes, oh my God, I have the best strategic formula for X, Y, and Z. And everybody's like, whoa. And he goes, oh, but you didn't buy my program, so you're not getting it. That's terrible. Like, I give my all. I have 3-day events many times. I give my all. I have speaker boot camps coming up. I give everything, but it's never enough. It's just not enough. I could sit here and tell you, here's my intramercial formula. Here's my everything. I promise you, probably 3% of the people would apply it. It's just the nature of human beings. And so our job is to give it all enough for where they can utilize it. Because sometimes you're like, I'm going to give you 8,032 steps to this, and people make it through 5 and then they fail, and then it's your fault. So give them enough to be supportive and value, but I'll tell you, don't hold back. Don't hold back.
That's good. That's good. I'll ask one final question and get Jane's response, get your response. And I want to really hear Jane in this response. You've given some golden nuggets, Jane. We appreciate your time. This has been awesome. One question that we as growing professionals ask is, am I investing my time with the right people? That's something people ask. And I tell people, your ROI on the groups you hang with and the mentors and the business minds that you hang with means a lot for your future. How does Jane determine who she hangs around? And
that's valuable. And like you said, you're going to have friends. We're friends now. We're all friends. I don't have a lot of friends. And I'll tell you why. I'm extremely picky. I love talking about the weather. I love stupid conversations. Don't get me wrong. But if I can't get to know someone on a deeper level, it's just not going to work out. I don't have much of a filter, if you haven't figured that out. Most, if I think it, feel it, it's coming out in a very skillful way. So I'm not a clumsy communicator, but I do share a lot of who I am. I share vulnerability and transparency. And if I don't feel people are going to be able to keep up with the level of transparency and authenticity, it's just not, it doesn't work for me. So I started out my business years ago, and I said yes to everything I possibly could. And it was a great way to grow. And then as time went on and success came our way, what I started saying was the millions are in the no's. There are certain no's that will be more valuable than 10 yeses. And I demonstrate that through, I was just at an event last week. It was not aligned. It was selling. And I could feel inside, I was like getting angry, getting like, oh my God, I just can't do this. And it was a 5-day event, and I dropped off after day 2 because it was not aligned with how I do my business and how I run my life. So it's important to be awake for longer periods of time, fall asleep less soundly. And that's what I do in my life. I'm obsessed with noticing what I'm noticing. I notice what I feel. I notice what I think. I notice what other people say. So I think for me, the most important thing is individuals that will honor who I am, my limits and boundaries, and honor who they are. That's key for me.
We'll close with a parting shot, and I'll have you give a parting shot. So I said that was going to be the last question, but I think this will be like last question part B, and it will be your parting shot. Jane, this has been phenomenal. I appreciate your time. We appreciate your time. We look for you to spend more time with us at another time. But your parting shot, if 31 years ago, you could talk to a young, up and coming Jane Powers, and you could only give one sentence, what would that one sentence be 31 years ago to an up and coming Jane Powers?
Do not believe what others say about you or to you. Don't believe everything everyone says. It's vital. And I don't mean be mistrusting. Please don't get me wrong, right? Don't get me wrong, but don't believe anything that's not your truth. You stand in your truth, no one can tip you over. No one can.
District 3, we've had a gem, we've had a jewel, we've had a treat. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Until next time, Jane, we love you, we appreciate you, and I believe now we can say we're the best of friends.
Yes.
Take care.